It's your girl, Michelle, with Girls Talk Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. So today I have on with us Miss DeAndra Dycus. Now, let me tell you something. I'm a busy woman. She got me beat. She does more than what I do. And so I am going to stop talking about her, and I'm going to allow DeAndra to introduce herself. So DeAndra, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name is DeAndra Dycus. First of all, Michelle, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, to just have a conversation with you, to have some girl talk. I absolutely love girl talk and girl time. So thank you for the opportunity. I am an author, an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, a coach, and I think I'll stop right there. So as Michelle said, life can get really busy, but just excited and blessed to, partake in, my purpose. So excited to share tonight.
So let's jump right into it. So you were living just a normal life of a mom raising her sons, right?
Yes.
And then something happened, something that changed the trajectory and the direction of your life. So why don't you share with our listening audience what that looked like for you?
Wow. You know what? Every time I'm asked that question, I reflect back. I go back to February 1st, 2014, where my son DeAndre was 13 years old at a birthday party of a peer. Not sneaking out of the house, not trying to be at an over 21 club or a club at all, just a house party in a good neighborhood. And there seemed to have been some kind of dispute between two other young men. A fight broke out. The chaperones asked the young man to leave, and within 2 minutes, shots rang out. And I was told there was about 35 kids at the birthday party. My son was shot trying to run away from the bullets. Is what I heard. To this day, I don't know the true story of what really happened. I just know he was an innocent bystander who was shot in the back of the head and left paralyzed and nonverbal. So my son is what we call a nonverbal spastic quadriplegic, meaning he does not move from the waist down on his own. However, because of the spastic part, we do sporadically see movements where he'll kick his feet, scratch his head, but not a lot on command, but we are seeing improvement in that area.
So how old is Dre now?
Dre will be 21 on September 26th. So, it's a testimony when they tell you your child will live 3 days, and he has lived 7.5 years post-injury. So he was shot at 13, and we'll be celebrating 21 here in a couple of weeks. So really excited about that.
So I know from that, purpose was kicked into gear in your life. Just kind of kicked you straight on into it, and but that's how it happens.
Yeah.
Things will happen that will be the platform that God will use to spring you into action.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter whether it's something tragic or whether not. It's just some event took place in our lives that kind of springboarded us into living our purpose, into actively living our purpose and stepping into the realm that God designed for us to step into.
Yeah.
So from what happened to your son, Dre, how have you been utilizing that platform to get the message out to the world about the dangers of gun violence?
Like you said, I was just thrown into it. You got to be careful what you ask for. So maybe about a couple weeks before Dre was shot, I was standing in my kitchen, and I was 30 years old, and I said, okay, God, you got to give me purpose. And no, I'm sorry, I was 32. Yeah, 32 years old. And I said, I got these boys, life is pretty good, but I want more, and I want to be doing, your will. And I had no idea what would really come from that. And so a week before Dre was shot and wounded, a young lady in my classroom, I used to be an instructor at MedTech College, she left me this voicemail and she's like, Miss DeAndra, my boyfriend's been shot in the back of the head and he didn't make it. And my first thought was, you know, I don't know what I would do as a mother. Like I consoled my student, but I was really concerned about the mother. And who would have ever thought 7 days later I would be that mother? So it's like, you know, God gave me glimpses of what was to come, but I never imagined it. But it's put me on a path that I didn't see coming. Once Dre came home, so he was in the hospital about 37 days. Life was touch and go. They told me to pull the plug. They told me not to be selfish and to think about the quality of life that he would want to live over what I wanted. And I told them, he's 13, I'm going to make this decision. And so we didn't pull the plug. He slowly was weaned off of life support, and thus he survived, and he's been breathing on his own ever since. So he's not on a ventilator or anything like that. He just has diminished brain capacity due to traumatic brain injury. He was shot right here in the back of his skull. But it pushed me somewhere I never seen coming. And so once Dre got home, I was asked to speak. And the craziest thing is, someone said, can you speak at a pro-life event? And I said, pro-life? She said, you chose life. You didn't let them pull the plug. And I was like, wow. I didn't think I did anything special. I just thought I did what any other mother would do.
Right.
And so I went to this event and I couldn't believe it. She's like, you have to speak for 20 minutes. And I'm like, 20 minutes? So then I began penning this speech. And I took speech class in college and different things. I always like to talk, but again, didn't see this coming. And so I penned this. And at the time, Whitney Houston had just passed away, or either she passed away around the time Dre was shot. And I remember sitting at my computer and I was like, I haven't mourned Whitney. And so I started playing her songs, and I didn't know My Own Strength came on. And so I titled that and I started listening to those words. And I was like, my God, this is my story. And I just began writing. And I went, it was 200 people. Some of my friends and family traveled with me. And that put me on a path of becoming a speaker and advocate, joined a national organization that does a lot of work around legislation and gun violence prevention, awareness, and education. And you know what? I have been so blessed to speak across this country and, you know, with politicians and dignitaries. It's just been incredible. I didn't know my own strength. I didn't know Dre's strength either. He was a lazy 13-year-old teenage boy who played video games and football, and that's it. I had no idea this kid would literally fight his way back to life.
But it gives us reason to believe that sometimes we need a cause. We need to have a reason. A lot of times we don't have that. We don't have that cause or that reason for us to really show up. I did an interview for a young lady that is applying for a position at my job. And I remember saying about her, what I got from her is that she shines in adversity. Mm. But she's really low key any other time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's how we live our lives. We're really low key until we have to show up. That's and right. When we show up in full force and we are out there doing whatever it is that God has given us to do. Yeah. And so for those of you that do not know, DeAndra and I both have the same publisher. My book, Desperate Housewives of Biblical Proportions, was published by Enhanced DNA Publishing with Denola Burton. And your book, your anthology, why don't you tell us about the anthology that was published up under the same publisher?
So it's Beautiful Resilience. Just super proud of the project. It brought a lot, out of me as well as my co-authors. So I have been so blessed to be on this journey and meet so many different people, particularly women who have been impacted by gun violence and loss of, catastrophic loss. And I wanted to do a project to bring us together in a different kind of way, Yes, we can stand on podiums, we can do Facebook Lives and different things. But I said, what would it look like for us to begin pinning our stories, and wanted to just create a platform for that. So I sent a call out to some women that I knew. Several responded. I think we started with 12. We ended up with 10. But it was an incredible journey of sharing, of reflecting, and really residing in a space of grief and gratitude. You know, gratitude for the time that we have with our children, the time I still have with Dre, and grief, you know, in the space of loss. And it was just a beautiful collaboration, inspirational stories of a mother's grief, with women from across the country. Some of our authors are from South Carolina, different parts of Georgia, different parts of Indiana as well. So was excited to just partner and link arms with some amazing women, to elevate the stories of gun violence. You know, through my nonprofit, some of the women are in a support group in my nonprofit, Purpose for My Pain. And we always want to work with others in creating these platforms to share stories. That's a part of our mission statement, is creating platforms to share stories in unique ways to make sure that our loved ones are never forgotten. They're more than numbers. They're more than a file. They're a piece of our hearts.
Okay, so tell them where they can purchase the book. Anyone that wants to be able to support what it is that you're doing and read these stories.
DeAndraDycus.com, first and foremost. I shared with somebody the other day my website, and she went on Amazon and bought the book. But if you go to my website, if you're local, I'll deliver it. Otherwise, I'll ship it to you. But DeAndraDycus.com is also available on Amazon. And it is also available at the Ujami Community Bookstore here in Indianapolis, that is located at Flanner House. I apologize, I don't know their address offhand, but it's also in the Indiana Historical Society's bookstore as well. So excited about that. We've been invited to be in their author fair. Our first round of books sold out at Ujame. So super excited about it's about community building and connections. And I shared with some women about the book, and they literally went to the store and bought us out. So just a blessing. So there's several places to purchase it, and it'll take you on a beautiful journey of inspiration.
I had the unique pleasure of participating in the production of that book.
Yes,
I had an opportunity to meet these ladies and to actually intimately get involved in their stories. What I learned in the midst of it is that although there was a common thread of grief that went through everybody's story, how they dealt with it and how they overcame it is totally different from woman to woman.
Yes.
You could not say, oh, well, all of them did the exact same thing. And even the tragedies that they experienced were different.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes it's those unique qualities that are the differences that can speak to people's situation and let them know, you know, even though I've had a tragedy, even though I've had a tragic situation that's happened in my life, it doesn't mean that I give up and I give in. Now, we go through our season of grief. Now, I'm one that will tell you in a heartbeat, go through your grief, because if you don't go through grief, grief is going to get you.
It's going to go right through you.
It's going to get you. And I'm here to tell you, and that's not a good thing. Yeah. And so I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to learn about their stories. And I have to say that one of the stories that stayed with me the longest was Pam's story.
Oh, yeah.
When I tell you, you need to get the book so that you can read about DeAndra's story, of course, the other lady's stories, but when you read Pam's story, you're going to be like, Michelle.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because if that is not a story of resilience, I don't know what a story of resilience looks like.
Yeah. She's been an instrumental part of my journey. And as far as just going through things with my children, and, you know, she's become just a a personal friend. She's several years older than me. So I'm like, is she Auntie Pam or, but she has been just instrumental part in my journey as a survivor, and as well as all the women, but she has definitely made a personal impact on my life. And I will say the same for you and Miss Danola, just cultivating those kind of relationships. I've seen you, on social media, in public places, on flyers, your book, but I never really got to know you, and then had no idea that you knew my mom all those years back either. But I just felt like working with the both of you, it just created a different bond. And it's so good to be in that space of, sisterhood, especially here in Indianapolis. I don't think it's always that easy to create those kind of relationships. So it just was a journey. So between our editor, the co-authors, and our publisher, it was just a great experience.
It was, with anything, there's life challenges that we all experience. I don't care who you are, what stage of life you in, you're going to have some challenges. Mm-hmm. And looking at it, I guess my next question to you would be, what is the greatest lesson you learned from doing the anthology?
Oh my gosh. The greatest lesson. Oh my God, I learned so many lessons. I should have wrote them down for my next book. I learned a lot of lessons. The greatest lesson is just simply to treat other people how you want to be treated. I think that's the golden rule. And don't always expect what you pour out is what you'll get poured back into you as well. People say I have a heart of gold, and it's just being me. And so I just move and I just do me, and not always with the expectation of that being reciprocated, but I just do me and in that space, and I won't change who I am, but just making sure that we treat people how we want to be treated, knowing that every story, and when I say treat people how you want to be treated, I mean the stories. And no pain outweighs another, but things do get heavy for certain people. And that's what I mean. And the way I tell my story is not how Pam, Felicia, or Wendy told their story, but that every story has value. That's my greatest lesson. Every story has value, no matter how it's articulated. We all don't talk the same. We all don't walk the same. We all don't, speak the same, but every story has value.
I really feel like in the process of everything that went on with the book, that it was an opportunity for women to do something that they had not done before. Mm-hmm. And to really get out there and be able to tell that story that they may have had bottled up in their heart in a way, because, when we're on stage and we're speaking, we're on. Mm-hmm. But when you write a book, you can be really transparent. You can't always be that transparent when you're speaking.
No.
And so you have that opportunity. And, when I was reading the book and I was going through each of the ladies' stories, that was one of the things, and it was a heavy read, but it wasn't heavy in the sense of I got to go and get a good cry.
Yeah.
Because at the end of reading the book, you was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Because you got to see the resilience. You got to see how the women experience some of the most devastating days in their lives, and how they overcame it.
Absolutely. And that reaction that you had is the reaction that we was hoping for. It was the reaction that I prayed for before I even, put this book out in the atmosphere, was for people to see that. Me and my husband came up with that title. We were sitting in the den one day and just bouncing ideas off of each other. And we collaborated and came up with beautiful resilience. I think our tagline was a little different initially. Miss Danola said, look, that's too long, but beautiful resilience. We came up with that. And that's what it's about. Going through your journey of grief can be ugly. It can be so ugly. I had a good cry this morning. You never know when it's going to come on, when you're missing a piece of your heart. However, when you persevere, when you don't give up, when you stay in the fight, when you stay in the fire, and when you minister to someone else in their time of pain, It's beautiful because God told us he would give us beauty for our ashes. And that's absolutely what he's done for each of the women involved in the project.
What you got going on in your life these days, young lady?
Next Tuesday at noon, I am doing healing and community grief and trauma with the Social Justice Institute. I hope I'm saying that right, y'all. It'd be a lot. And my husband has my phone. But I'm doing that conversation panel with Shauna Majors, who is our violence intervention manager here in the city of Indianapolis, violence reduction manager. And so me and her are going to talk about how we support families in the aftermath of grief and what does it look like for the community to heal together. So that's next Tuesday. On the 26th, we're celebrating Dre's 21st birthday, but we're also making that a community event. It's our annual Pray for Dre, Play for Dre 5-on-5 basketball tournament. We have been doing that for years now. So this is year 7. Don't know if it'll be the final year because 7 does mean complete, or we'll keep this thing going. But we're hosting that at the Him and Her Collegiate School of Arts, September 26th. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be a community event. We're talking about mental health. We're having some entertainment. We're having vendors. We still need vendors if anybody would like to sign up. It is a fundraiser for some of the things that we do through Purpose for My Pain, which we are gearing up for our Christmas giveaway that we do every year. So we really, since we're doing it so late in the year this time, a lot of those funds will be allocated to support families who have been impacted by gun violence by way of Christmas support. And 2 more things. In October, we are launching a mentorship program called the Poor. And what that is women in the community will be partnering with other women who just need a little bit of love and guidance. And I'm so excited about this. It's going to start October 11th. We'll be launching signups next week on the website for people to register to be a part of that program. But I've got my mentors on deck, and they're building and working on their curriculum. And next week we'll start taking signups for that. But it'll be from women 18 and up. 18 and up. There might be 50 and need some support, but 18 and up. A lot of the mentor programs in the city are geared towards youth, and we want to make sure we don't forget that sector of women. Mainly because gun violence is on the rise with women across the country. Domestic violence is up about 110%. Indianapolis, on a personal note, has seen a major uptake in gun violence towards women, especially women of color. And so we want to make sure that we're reeling our adult women in, our young women in, and loving on them. So that will be launching October 11th. And if there's anything else, just go to the website, DeAndraDycus.com or purposeformypain.org. And that's with the number 4. That is my nonprofit.
Okay.
Oh, so I forgot about that.
I have to jump in here because you sent me that email and I kept saying, I'm going to get back with you. And life took over. Yes. So I am apologizing live that I did not get back with you. But you can put my name on the list and tell me what you need me to do.
All right. I'll send you the email that talks more about the program. We definitely could use more mentors. The more mentors we have, the more women we can pour into. And I really look at this opportunity as the mentors getting poured into. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I decided to do this, I've been working very closely with the family who had a traumatic loss in our community, and just supporting these women, it's brought me so much joy, but it's also brought me some grief. And I said, Lord, I got to do something. And I'm not trying to add a bunch of different things to my plate. I'm trying to add things that are already in line with our mission, vision, and purpose. And this is definitely one of those things.
Well, kudos to you for stepping up and providing this opportunity for women to be able to be blessed and to be able to experience the help that they need. It is so needed, yes. So very much needed within our community, especially I know I have viewers that are not of my persuasion. Mm-hmm. And however, there is something to having someone that mentors you that looks like you.
Absolutely.
That can relate to you because the cultures are similar and you've gone through similar things. I know back in March, we lost my eldest niece.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it wasn't gun violence, it was an unexpected death.
Yeah.
And even now, when I think about her, sometimes it takes me there because I miss her. And when I tell you she was a bright light, Latoya was a huge light. You know, she knew no strangers and everybody was a friend.
Yeah.
And so, and her thing is she just loved to love on people. She enjoyed loving on people and experiencing life. And so my family, you know, and then a month before that, my brother passed. So we kind of got hit right back to back with two very close. And then now, you know, my godmother passed away. And so now we're kind of trying to see what this is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And even though we have the family and we're supporting each other, there are so many people out there that don't have that.
They don't have it.
They don't have anyone that they can go to and talk to. They don't have anyone that is willing just to listen so that they can talk it out. Mm-hmm. And so I say kudos to you for stepping into that arena and making that available for women to be able to utilize those services, and even that for the mentors to mm-hmm. be able to give of themselves, to share of their overflow, mm-hmm. so that other people can be blessed. And I've done it in the past, and trust me, there's a blessing for the mentor as well as there is for the mentee. Mm-hmm. So I was on your website, mm-hmm. and there was something that you said on the website, and I want you to explain what this means when I read it, okay?
Uh-oh, okay.
You said, my mission is to create a safe space and atmosphere for women who are in need of encouragement, healing, and support, because God has given me a special dose of strength to assist and serve women in painful situations. I too have experienced sorrow, pain, and despair, but have made it through by faith and resiliency. I want to share what I have learned throughout my journey.
That almost brings tears to my eyes. You know, we don't go back and read our websites very often. So it takes me back to a meeting I was in this morning, and one of the ladies from the support group was there. I didn't know she was going to be there. And the pastor that was leading the meeting, he told her, he said, I need you and DeAndra to lead us on what forgiveness looks like on this project that we're all working on. And she turns around and she looks at me and says, DeAndra and Purpose for My Pain saved my life.
Wow.
My God. And that's not even on the Purpose for My Pain website. That's at DeAndraDycus.com. But that's what it's about. It's about loving and supporting women at their point of need, when they feel isolated, when they feel alone, when they feel like no one else is listening, or when they feel like their grief is a burden. I know that my husband doesn't mind listening to me, but I also have the apprehension sometimes inside, like, I just don't want to put this on him again. I just don't want my son seeing me cry again. So to have a sister to be on this journey who knows my familiar pain, and as you stated in the book, it's all different, but it's all the same. Mm-hmm. And so being able to have that sister I can lean on, whether it's, you know, sudden loss in the physical or loss in the natural, or losing a job or going through a horrific divorce, but having my sister where, for one, I can be my true self and take off my mask and just really be okay with being authentic. Because until you get to a place of saying, I'm okay with not being okay, you won't even begin to heal. You have to have acceptance that you are in a place where you are not okay. And then once you get to that realization, we're on our journey of healing. I never say that a mother is healed from losing her child. I say we're on a forever journey of healing. If she confesses that she's healed, that's different. I don't put that burden and say, you're healed, you know, but I say we're navigating this journey together. And that's what that means, with the hopes that we begin to walk in that beauty that God promised us, which is our resiliency. That's what that means.
Wow, that's awesome. That is, when I read that, it was like, yep, I'm gonna have to bring this up. Okay, so
Don't
while
blew my
you were
mind.
introducing yourself and you talking about speaking and all of this other stuff, Sister Girl never said anything about speaking at the Democratic National Convention as their gun violence speaker in 2020.
In a split second, a stray bullet shattered my family's life. My son DeAndre was only 13 years old. He was recognized as a gifted and talented student. His possibilities were endless. He was dancing at a birthday party when he was shot in the back left side of his head, shattering his skull. One shot changed our lives forever. Today, my Dre does not talk, he does not walk. I know he knows me by the smile he shows when I walk in his room, but I'm unsure if he knows a gunshot has changed his life. Since March, I've only been able to see my son 3 times, but I can't touch or hug him due to COVID-19. People tell me that I'm lucky. I tell them we are blessed. I remind them that my son is in a wheelchair and unable to feed himself. I don't think DeAndre feels lucky when he has to be bathed from head to toe or gets injections for muscle contractions. I am in a space of gratitude. Yes, I can touch DeAndre, I can hold his hand, but the child that I birthed is not able to live his dreams, and that hurts. Every day, we're reminded that he may never be the same. We are not alone. In every town across America, there are families who know what a bullet can do. That's why I'm a mom who volunteers to stop this. Crazy. Yeah, that was me. I mean, it was a crazy opportunity. I got a phone call that said, "Can I enter a speech that you did to the Biden campaign about gun violence? They're looking to have a gun violence speaker to headline night number 3, I believe I spoke." And I was like, "What? Me?" She said, "You and 2 other people, we're submitting. Is it okay?" She submitted it. And when they called me, I didn't answer the phone because I said, "She's going to tell me I didn't get it or I got it." And so she left me a voicemail and said, "I have really great news." So I knew it was me. And I prayed and I said, "God, I thank you, God, for your favor. Thank you for your will being done. And most of all, keep me humble in this space." That's an incredible opportunity. Um, and yeah, so I called her back and she said, I don't know what they submitted, but she said it blew them away and they picked me. And it was on from there. I could never be a celebrity because that month surrounding the DNC, well, for one, I had to keep it quiet. So she said, "Tell your husband, but don't tell anyone else," because she knew I was going to tell my husband. So I told my husband, and then it became speech writing, partnering with speech writers from the Biden campaign. I like to speak from my heart, so I submitted my own words, my own speech. It was pretty incredible. We had to nail it down to 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And they said I had the longest speaking part. And I'm like, what? 2 minutes? But I got a lot out in 2 minutes. Tons of interviews, tons of podcasting. I'm still doing podcasts from there. Actually, around that with the founder of Moms Demand Action, we've done several podcasts together. Every magazine you can think of mentioned my name. That's crazy. They sent me an email with every publication where my name was mentioned in, and I think it's like 52 publications in that one email. So it was just crazy. National. Someone reached out to me from Canada. So international. It was a humbling experience. My only downfall is that we had to do it virtual. At the last minute, they opted not to fly anybody in. But if I was there, I was on the night of President Obama. I feel bad. The lady who from Scandal, she introduced me. I was like, she said my name. Oh my God. It was just a crazy opportunity, but so blessed. Who would have ever thought, at a presidential convention that gun violence would headline one of the nights? So it's pretty incredible.
Well, I know when we first started the conversation, you were talking about the gun violence that is happening here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I have never seen it this bad.
No one.
I don't think we have ever had it this bad as long as I can remember. We are creeping up to be in the top 10 cities in the nation for gun violence. And that's not something that we should be proud of by any stretch of the imagination.
No, we shouldn't want to be known for those numbers.
So, in the spaces that you occupy, what are the conversations? How can the everyday person get involved in and start sharing and talking about the necessity to stop the gun violence? If you see something, say something. You know, this thing about I don't want to get involved. Yeah, but the whole time you're not getting involved, somebody's child is being impacted by gun violence. And then when your child or your loved one is impacted, you want everybody to talk, but you never said anything prior to. You wanted to stay in the background because it wasn't any of your business. Now, I know I was raised that I am my brother's keeper and I am my sister's keeper.
Yeah.
So understanding that I may not be going through what you're going through, but I have the ability to pray. I have the ability to use the platforms that I have to begin to speak against the gun violence that is taking place. What are we, 190?
91 as of last night. I have not heard of anybody today, praise God. But yeah, as of last night, we were at 191 fatal and roughly about 450 non-fatal. Yeah, it's a lot. It might be more than that. I did see a statistic that said we've had 900 people shot, stabbed, or murdered this year. That's I don't know if that's a raw statistic. That's probably pretty raw, but it's a lot. 191 homicides, I know for sure, and about over 400 non-fatal for sure. So it's a lot. And so the spaces that I'm in nearly on a daily basis, we are all wondering what can we do. But one of the things that really came to me this week is community response. What you said, you kicked it off. When you see something, say something. But we also have to make sure that there's protection provided. There's a way that I can report without fear of retaliation. But what people don't understand is when you're not saying anything, you are giving these perpetrators space to continue to commit crimes. The person who shot my baby was never arrested. There was only speculation of who he really may have been. And so, you know, if it's who they say it was, he did not stop his crime spree until his life was taken. And so we need to be just very mindful of another thing. Don't act like you are exempt. There's no zip code, creed, color, denomination, nothing that stops you from being impacted by gun violence. Your kids go to school. Kids are losing their lives at school. You go to the synagogue. People are shooting up synagogues. Lord have mercy. Someone shot up FedEx and took those precious lives. You know, so we have to be mindful that no one is exempt. So yes, use whatever platform you have to elevate the stories, because sometimes when we get into elevating the stories, maybe we can pierce the heart of someone who thought they may want to take a life, or the person who may want to take their own life. Because what a lot of people don't know, suicide is the number one cause of gun violence. So going back to what I said, taking care of our mental. If you have a weapon, make sure it's secured, things of that nature. Don't let anybody see your gun in your car and be able to steal it and apprehend it and then go commit a crime with it. Most likely the person who feels like they have to steal a weapon, they don't have any good, intentions with the weapon. Make sure that we're voting properly and make sure we're speaking out against bad gun laws and legislation that is not saving lives. We had a lot of those come up here in our city, and we were able to defeat them because people went and they spoke out. So you got to speak up and speak out, against these things to make sure that your family is never impacted or never impacted again. You talked about Miss Pam. Miss Pam has lost 2 children to gun violence. Who could even imagine that? And she's not the only one. There's other mothers in our city. You may not hear from or see as much, I was talking to someone yesterday. There's a mom who's lost 3 children to gun violence,
Wow.
3 of her boys to gun violence. And so we want to make sure that we're just, staying in a space where we are speaking out. I know it can be scary. People ask me, do you ever get scared? People see you on the news. I said, I'm Dre's voice, and that's it. I've never felt threatened or anything like that. So don't get caught up in that hype either. But just make sure you're mindful with your movement and the things that you say, but do not sit silent, because when you do, you're a part of the problem.
That is so very true. I did an interview with Lawrence Chow, and he is an actor, an activist, a producer. He did a short film about Asian racism. And it was called Justice for Vincent. And the young man's name was Vincent Chin. So back in 82, he got into a argument in a bar. He was out having his bachelor, last night as a bachelor, having his fun with his best man. The next day he was supposed to get married. And these 2 Caucasian men, a stepfather and a son, had mistaken him. They mistaken him for Japanese, and he wasn't Japanese, because that was when the cars were coming over from Japan, and it was coming in, and people were losing their jobs in Detroit and all of that. And so after he left the bar with his friends to go home, because he's getting married the next day, those 2 men beat him with the baseball bat and killed him. And the last comments that he made was, "What? This is so unfair. Why did this happen?" And so we have to begin to think about, it doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished in life. It doesn't matter if you got a record or not. It doesn't matter if your mama raised you by herself or your mama and dad was there. Bullets have no name. And just like you said in your own situation, your son was an innocent bystander, had nothing to do with whatever went on prior to him even getting to the location.
No, my son probably didn't even know that a fight broke out. He probably was just having a good time and had no idea. And I'll go so far as to say violence sees none of that, whether it's gun violence or, like you said, a baseball bat. Violence doesn't see any of that. It is no respect of person. And that's why we have to just make sure that we're, being our best self. Just being your best self. I'm a true believer in what I pour out, it'll go out on other people. So if I'm exerting negative energy and bad attitudes, it's going to pour out to the people around me, starting with the people in my household. And so just being very intentional on what I pour into my children, and even, my spouse and my friends, when I talk to them, me and my friends, we start our group chat with Bible scriptures every morning, because we want to help one another get that day started, because we know all the chaos going on in our world right now. So we start our day with just words of encouragement to each other. And then it ripples on to the support group chat and Facebook and different things like that. So being very intentional with your pour. That's why I named the mentor program that. What are you pouring out into the atmosphere? Your words, your attitude, and your actions have so much power. And so we need to speak life over our babies. We need to speak life over our spouses, our friends, our family members, making sure that we are planting that good seed into them. When you walk out this door, or when you grab your phone or get on your laptop and you're on social media and the news alerts pop up, there's so much coming at us right now. It's incredible. I told somebody yesterday, I blame social media for the uptake in violence. Young man was stabbed yesterday at North Central, and a citizen's alert came over and said it was over a social media beef, and that the person who stabbed him, even though they're in high school, he's 18 and he's going to be charged with attempted murder. And I said, my God, nobody wins.
No.
You have this person trying to take his life, and your mother is losing you to the prison system. Like, nobody wins. And we got to make sure that we are, doing our best to plant that seed into our children, like conflict resolution. It's been at the door. Everybody, if they have, because they have quick access to guns that people show on online, social media, you can purchase. There are no background checks. If you buy a gun online, there's no background checks. There's no responsibility on that person that's selling it to make sure that you're going to be a responsible gun owner, which is just crazy to me, but that's a whole nother segment. But they have all that access to go make bad decisions. So we have to make sure we're doing the right thing with our poor.
I agree totally. One of the things that I have learned, my family has been blessed. In that regard, we've experienced death, but we haven't experienced death at the hands of a tragedy like that. However, it's really about how you show up in the spaces that you show up in.
Absolutely.
And it's about how you give back. Because a lot of times when I'm dealing with my grandkids, and it was so funny because it was something just this simple. Mm-hmm. My granddaughter has her hair natural. She wears it natural. And so there's some days I go over to my daughter's house and her hair is all over her head. And I'm like, what is wrong with your head? Mm-hmm. And so one day we were talking and she said, Mama, whenever you say that, I just really feel really bad. And it doesn't make me feel good about myself. And I said, oh, okay. I said, well, I won't say it anymore.
Yeah.
And we had gone just on a girls' trip to go get something to eat and to chat. And her hair was all over her head. And I didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. And she was like, you're not going to say nothing about my hair? I said, no, I told you I would not say anything else about your hair. And I meant that. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, I just thought you were just saying it to be saying it. No, if you tell me that something that I said offended you or hurt you, then I'm going to stop that behavior.
Yes.
Because it's not my intent to hurt anyone. That's not what God put me here to do. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we start taking that mindset across the board, a lot of the things that people jump off about would be squashed. Yeah. Because now I'm not thinking, oh, well, how dare you say something like that to me? Do you know who I am? Instead of taking that position, put ourselves in their shoes. How would we feel?
Yeah, that's good.
And so back in the 80s, when I was in high school, conflict resolution was a nothing there. It wasn't even a topic that was discussed. When I was working at 108 on the West Side, I actually became a community mediator, and I taught the kids conflict resolution. I actually ran into one of my students from back in 2001, I think it was. She was in middle school, and she was like, Miss Michelle, and I was like, well, hi, and so we were talking. She said, those peer mediation skills that you taught me? I said, yes. She said, well, I still use those today.
Wow.
And once you learn them, you never leave them. Mm-hmm. So maybe we need to get back and start going back into the schools, start going back into the community and reiterating those conflict resolution skills. And start talking about it all over again and making it important in the lives of our young people, because they're the ones that are going to become adults that are going to start making the laws. And so if we get them while they're still young, then maybe we can take away some of this. We won't be experiencing some of the violence that we've been experiencing, because the world is not going to get any better if we don't step up and do something different.
Absolutely. Conflict resolution that's so good. When you said that, I was like, you never know when she used those skills that actually saved her life.
Exactly.
Because she de-escalated a situation. But nowadays it's popular and it's cute to pop off, and to have it recorded and if you listen to the music and they tell you you're the baddest chick if you can pop off, or and it's just like, really, if we teaching those things in school, data and statistics shows the things that kids are learning at school, because of the amount of time they're there, have such a lasting impression on them. So getting those things back into the schools and stuff will be so key and instrumental. Oh Lord, that goes into funding and stuff. We're cutting all the wrong things out, which is then spilling out into escalation and violence, because we are defunding programs as it pertains to our schooling and mental health and all those things. So they probably cut those programs because they didn't have the funding.
Yeah, that was why it stopped.
Yeah. But now look, we're at 191 homicides. We're on pace Lord, I don't want to say we're going to break the record, but we're steps away from the record, which was hit, December 31st of 2020. So we're steps away from it. I believe last year was 200. So we're 9 away.
I'm praying that we have a turn, that there is a turn, there's a shift. And by no means am I anti-police by any stretch of the imagination. Mm-hmm. I believe that there is a need for the police, but I also believe that there's a need for police to have empathy and compassion towards the individuals that they police.
Absolutely.
But we all have to take an active role. We cannot expect the change to happen. And it's like you said, we have to be the change that we want to see. We can't expect someone else to step up and do something that we are very capable of doing ourselves.
Yeah, I wrote about that in my chapter. That's one of my favorite quotes, and it's so simple. Go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. And don't feel like you have to have an army of people supporting you. You show up, you do the work, you cut through the red tape, and people will follow. But if I'm waiting to have an army to glorify me, I'll never get it done, because most of the time they don't even like you when you walk it in purpose. So you'll be waiting forever. Just show up and do the work. And I always tell people, God will make the vision for he'll give the provision for the vision. And so he'll provide everything that you need. And you'll be so surprised how much he put in you. I never thought if anybody would have said you would lead a support group, you would have a nonprofit, I'd be like, you're crazy. No, I don't even know. Gosh, I can't even remember what I wanted to do before I started or not. Like, what was my dream? Probably traveling and shopping. Before I decided, I want to take on this huge task, and it's a mighty task of running a nonprofit and supporting people through their grief journey. It's a lot, offering programs and services and stuff, but many are called, few are chosen. And so when you've been chosen, you just have to go for it. And that's what it's about.
Well, this has been one wonderful conversation. I have enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you.
I know that the audience has enjoyed hearing from you as well. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to share anything that you want to share as your parting words with our audience.
Yes, first, thank you for having me. I love when it's just a conversation. You said that at the beginning, and it's just that, like not these series of questions just thrown at you. So it's just been a good girl talk. So thank you. And thank you for the work and the support you do just for women in the community, and most of all for the Beautiful Resilience Project. Some parting words are go to DeAndraDycus.com, purchase the book, support the book. $2 from every book purchase does go back into the work we do through Purpose for My Pain. I also have a clothing line, an apparel line, and an accessory line that I launched February 1st of this year in honor of my son's 7 years of survival, called Do It With Faith. Tried to wear one of the t-shirts today, but we have hoodies, we have pillows, we have blankets, we have cups. We have all kinds of Do It With Faith stuff. And Do It With Faith was birthed from the fact that 7 years I have done this with faith, resiliency, and just courage and strength that I didn't know I had. And I want to pour that on to other people. So go to the website and do that. Purposeformypain.org. That's with the number 4. Also go on there and see the work that we're doing. That website is continually being added to and built up. But just go on there, read about the work we're doing, and see how you can support the work we're doing. Don't be ashamed or bashful to hit that donate button, because we are out here really serving the community. We are in the trenches trying to provide therapy for families in the aftermath of gun violence, our grief support groups, which are sibling support and women support. Hopefully in 2020, we have a male support group. I just can't run it. That's not my lane. So just, just go out there and just make sure, as we already said, but I want to reiterate, is go out and be the change you desire to see in the world. It starts with you. Michael Jackson said it best. I'm looking at the man in the mirror and I'm asking him to change his ways. That's one of my top 5 favorite songs of all time. And not because the beat sounds good. We can't get caught up in that. Listen to the words and how powerful they are. So I encourage you. That's my call to action as we wrap up this podcast, is to go look at the man in the mirror and ask him to change his ways and see what he can do to make an impact.
Wow, that was awesome. Go look at the man in the mirror and ask him to change his ways.
Absolutely.
In order to make a positive impact on our world. And really, it starts with him or her, their family, their community,
yes,
then their city, their state, and then the world.
That's
so
right.
They said, the word of God says that love or charity starts at home and then spreads abroad. If we would take that same concept and do what you say, look in the mirror and ask the man in the mirror to change his ways, and do it in a positive way that is going to impact the world in a positive manner, then we would start seeing some things change. Definitely see some things change.
It'll be a rippling effect. Absolutely.
Thank you again for coming on the show today, DeAndra. This has been fantastic.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Make sure you tell that husband of yours that I said hello, and thank him for me, for supporting you in what it is that you do, because none of us can do what we do by ourselves.
Well, absolutely. He's a godsend. Who would ever thought that in the midst of tragedy, God would have blessed me with such a great husband? I was like, oh, that'll never happen. My life is too much. And I told him that. I said, my life is too much. And I'm up for the challenge, and he stayed.
There you go.
Yes, yes.
We do have good men. Now, I'm saying that we do have good men, and we do have men that are willing to step up to the challenge and to support our women as they step into their place of purpose. Absolutely. Because all it does is make them look good too. It gives them a chance for them to put their chest out, and feel good about what's going on in life. And it inspires them to step into their space of purpose and to live a life of purpose as well. That's what it's done for us. And praying for you and your family, and just asking God to be your comforter through yet another loss. That's a lot. I do appreciate it. I appreciate it. So everybody, this is your girl Michelle with DeAndra on Girls Talk Real Talk, because guess what? When girls talk, just about anything can happen. So we hope to see you again next week for another fantastic show with another set of great guests. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Bye.